Huge fan of Screen Rant. Great website.
Yeah. Well, great site.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Glad we got the time to talk then. I'm also glad that we got the chance to talk because I am a huge fan of the Orville. Ever since it launched back on Fox, it's been quite a ride to see the journey it's taken to where it is now. And so I'm curious, so many of you have past history with Star Trek, which I mean, Seth very much uses as an inspiration for the show. What has it been like for all of you, really, helping this show with the evolution that it's taken over the 3 seasons?
It's been great. I mean, when Seth created the show and asked me to come aboard, I hadn't written this style of standalone science fiction allegory hour-long in a while. And I didn't realize how much I missed it and how it was missing from TV. And how many stories there were to tell. Obviously, the Orville's its own thing, and very quickly, kind of, as you know, became its own thing. And it was really, the fans got it right away, and it was really, really encouraging. And it's been a ton of fun to work on.
Yeah, it's been a really. I echo that. I feel really fortunate to get to participate in the creation of this world. Obviously, I wrote for Star Trek, but I'm a geek first, and to get to participate in the creation of this sci-fi universe led by Seth is just so gratifying and so much fun.
I knew Brannon because we worked on 24 together, and he said, I'm on this new show, and it's Seth MacFarlane. And right away I thought, why are you calling me? Because I'm not exactly a comedy guy. And he said, no, we want just drama directors. So I went in and met. They showed me some of the stuff they were doing. Right away I got very excited. So I got a couple of episodes, one episode, the first season, called Krill, and I had to work with Seth mostly in makeup, which was very strange. The first time I met him, I think he had full makeup on. I didn't even know it was Seth, and so worked with him mostly in makeup the whole time on that episode. And I remember at one time we were just hitting it off, and he said, "Look, if we go again, come and do another episode." And I said, "I'll come if you give me a whole bunch of episodes," as a joke. Little did I know. And he turned around and said, "Yeah, okay, you're the producer director. You got a whole bunch of episodes." And I took it right away. I had so much fun doing that first show, and I've done my fair share of sci-fi in my career, but there was never anything like this. And then I also took it as an opportunity to learn sort of comedy from the king, and so it was really fun to sit beside him and watch him work and watch him play with the timing of comedy and what comedy scenes were just 2 people in a shot with no cuts because you don't want to cut in the joke and all of that kind of stuff that I really didn't know that much about. Even after 30 years experience in this business, I really didn't have that kind of education. So it's been great just by sort of learning that part of it from him. It's been really, really good.
So with that said, then I know with season 3, I believe it's just you and Seth directing all of the episodes. And given that this is now at Hulu, what was that like for you? Making that transition from a network production to streaming production.
Well, I think the guys can talk about it too. The writers can talk about it, but the time element was huge for us. That was the biggest thing because suddenly you didn't have that 42-minute limit, which in the storytelling makes a massive difference. So they're writing bigger epic stories with more depth and more characters and more time to really flesh the stories out. And when they land on my desk, then I'm able to take time with them. I'm not rushing to get everything into a 42-minute show. And usually some of the best shots I've ever done in television were on the cutting room floor because they had to keep the dialogue in and they had to fit everything in. And those shots go away, unfortunately. And in this show, we did the opposite. We have more of those. So when when we flew into a planet in season 2, when we fly into the Kalon planet, we had like 2 or 3 really cool shots. Now there's like 6 or 7 really cool shots. So you really get a feel for what that planet feels like. And it helps us create the world. And in all the scenes, we just have more room to work. So that time adjustment is massive. So I think that was the biggest thing for us with Hulu. And again, no restrictions. They were great partners. They rarely, got involved in a negative way, which sometimes happens. And so it was just a great partnership.
And so, David and Brandon, I'll ask a similar question of you. I mean, since you both are generally more involved with the writer's room and the behind the scenes things, what was that like for both of you making that transition from Fox to Hulu for New Horizons?
It was letting the stories be as long as they needed to be without, feeling constrained by a 6-act structure per se. I mean, I think we kept some acts in just as guideposts, but it really opened up the scope of the storytelling and the emotional scope. So you get an episode 1 that deals with some, allegorically, of course, with Isaac, some heavy stuff. And you don't want to rush that. You don't want to underservice it. You want to take good care of a story like that. And if you saw episode 3, what a journey that is. It's like you really feel like you went through something, on a kind of a movie level. It just changed the way we broke stories out and wrote the scripts.
David, anything to add?
No, it's pretty much that. I think that there felt like there were sort of less limits. It was which has always been the case with the show, honestly, is that Seth always let the story go where it led him, but then you had to pull it back to fit the format. Now, an episode can be an hour and a half long, and there can be a couple of stories in there that get their full treatment, whereas there have been moments in the past of the show where we've had to cut stuff that we liked, that was good, but it didn't fit the time.
So one thing I've really enjoyed about what I've seen so far from this season is that it really feels like it has the ultimate grip on its tone of comedy and drama. I thought season 2 was also a great, in comparison to season 1, I felt it also had a stronger grip on it. But I also like that it seems with the jump to streaming that it's leaning a little more PG-13, I would say, in comparison with its dialogue and with its action. Was that something that was always intended when making that jump, or was that something that really just sort of felt natural with the story?
That's interesting. I mean, because it wasn't intended. I mean, Seth, I think, really wanted. We had some conversations about you have a little more freedom with language on Hulu. Do we want to change that? And he landed pretty strongly and no, this is a show. We want to be true to what it is already. There is freedom, storytelling freedom, and I guess that might lean into, as you say, the PG-13 area. But it wasn't a conscious decision. It was actually more of a conscious decision to give Orville, if anybody been watching the show, maybe a slightly more epic version, but of the show they've been watching. That these are our characters. Yeah. Go ahead, Brian.
No gratuitousness for sake.
Right.
Well, I think you've it wasn't egregious, but it was something I did kind of notice of they said that word. They weren't allowed to say that before. And stuff like that.
It's a couple of things.
Yeah, a couple of things.
But only where it worked. Only where it was we might have done it in season 2, but we couldn't. But it wasn't it really wasn't we're going to do this now.
Yeah, there wasn't a conscious effort to put it in.
Right.
Sure. Okay. So one thing I've loved about this show as well is the amount of cameos that you've had throughout the first 2 seasons, whether it be Star Trek vets, whether it be McFarlane vets like Neeson or Charlize. And so I'm curious, with with episodes we've seen so far, I haven't really noticed any, but can we expect more familiar faces to turn up in season 3?
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
I've got a picture on my phone of the best one right here, but I can't show it to you.
Be careful.
What an asshole. Oh my God, Cassar is such a fucking asshole.
Got to tease me
It's a
like
question
that.
we've been answering all day, and we'd love to just spit out.
We have a lot of great cameos, as always, but there's one we are all like, this. People are going to be so excited to see this one.
Yeah, it really is great.
Interesting. I look forward to seeing it then, because
It's in the last.
I mean, obviously the
episode.
main.
It's in the last episode and the last scene, so you have to watch them all.
Oh, perfect. Well, I
No,
intended to anyways, so
kidding.
now
I'm not telling
I
you
have
what
an
it is.
extra reason.
Don't print that. It's not in the last
print that.
episode, because then everyone's because then, well, wait, when they see the person, they're going to be, there's somebody better. It's like, no,
You're gonna know. You're gonna know. It's pretty.
you're going to know
clear
as soon
when
as
it
you
happens.
see the person. Yeah.
I'm sure I will. So what then would all of you say was your biggest challenge or your biggest goal coming into this season in comparison to the past seasons?
I mean, it's to continue the stories.
Yeah.
But there was also a conscious effort, starting with Seth, to make it even bigger than it's ever been. Not knowing initially that there would be a pandemic and a delay. I think it's helpful that the show is so epic right now that you feel like it's worth the wait. But
I do remember when we were breaking the story for episode 3, constantly sort of saying, I still had my network hat on, and I was like, are we really going to do the plane crash too? Are we really going to do yes? And so it's like, yes, I want yes. I remember in breaking episode 3, I was surprised at how epic we were going to go, and that all came from Seth. He wanted to push the envelope, he wanted to keep going, and that really is a metaphor for Seth through the whole season, and all of us going along. Let's go.
You imagine how I felt when I had to read it and then figure out a way to shoot it
and actually make it. Yeah.
So
John's problem now.
virtually that I'll never forget, because in that particular one, I'm reading, and usually in television, you got your one big thing, your one big thing that's really defines the episode. I just kept going, wait, now we're on a lake, and there's now we're in a high school. now we're in a morgue. Now we're in a plane crash. Like, I can't believe this is all happening in one episode. And it's the first thing we shot, because the ship was still in its big refit. We were still kind of, we couldn't shoot on the set yet. And so the first episode we shot was all the location stuff for episode 3. So we just dove in right away and just realized, yeah, this is just an idea of what this year is going to be like. It's going to be huge.
So now I do have to ask, does Seth have more ideas in mind? Do you all have more ideas in mind for a potential season 4?
I think there's so many more stories to tell. I mean, we all hope there will be, but we don't know.
It's up to the audience to show up. But if the audience shows up and Hulu wants more, I don't think there's anything more exciting than getting back in that writer's room with Seth and the staff and figuring out, okay, now what do we do? These characters live. They live. They live on the page. They live through the performances of the actors and through John and Seth's direction in the episodes. And so there's more to their life, and we'd be excited to figure out what that is.
We'd love it if it happened.
Well, I've got my fingers crossed for you guys. I think everybody who loves the show already is going to love what you've got. And I think people hopefully will find interest in hopping on board this season for more. So thank you guys so much for taking the time to chat.
Thanks for your time, and thanks for your website.
Thank you, Grant. Good stuff.
Absolutely. Have a great rest of your week.